Building a team is essential. And yes, when the founder has all the knowledge, because as founders, entrepreneurs, we're doing everything, like absolutely everything, right? So the big thing I found through the years is areas where I found, it's really not worth my time to do this. I need to bring someone in so that they can handle that, because this is taking up too much of my time, and my time is better spent on X.
Welcome to the Never Been Promoted podcast and YouTube channel. I'm on a mission to help you cut the time to all the things that are holding you back so you can unleash your entrepreneur. So we'll talk about his journey in building his companies. But Craig, thank you, by the way, for joining today.
Thanks, Thomas. I'm really happy to be here and just excited to be talking with you and your audience.
Why don't you give us your background just a bit?
So I started Rhythm way back in 1996 with a couple of friends from college. We actually started a digital first company way back in the 20th century, before that was even a term, doing digital transformation work before that was a term, way back then. We actually started marketing independent music online. So we had built a site called rhythmnet.com where people could discover new music, independent music, listen to song samples, buy CDs through a secure server way back in 1996. Only 30 million people online at the time. Everyone was afraid to buy stuff with their credit card. So we struggled with that for a couple of years, but then adapted. Still kept doing that, but started doing a focus on becoming a web design company, doing websites for businesses. And then that continued to evolve, and we became a full digital agency serving middle market to large enterprises. And then eventually sold the company in 2019. And then I stayed on for 3 more years as a CEO, and then left in early 2022 to now embark on a whole new chapter in life with my book out, and here we are.
Have you had business mentors? I hope the answer is yes, because the follow-up question to meet is, how do you get past the trust issue of where to go?
Yeah, it's a great question. I actually write about this in my book, how important it is to find a mentor. And there is a kind of more this is where the Kung Fu comes into play, an Eastern saying that when the student is ready, the master will appear. And I have found throughout my career, there's been different mentors that I've had, and they've come in at different points of time.
Do you think there's also a need for standardizing as many processes as possible and documenting them, or anything, or leveraging automations where appropriate?
Yes, absolutely. The more systems that you have in place, processes, the more efficient you're going to work. And with technology, there's so much technology out there today. Making sure that you leverage technology to create better efficiencies. It's kind of table stakes, really. You have to have that in place. And they're going to dig in, like, well, what's your process for this? What systems do you have? What kind of software are you using? Those are all questions that are going to come up.
What do you recommend, I guess, if the knowledge is around the founder?
Yeah, so building a team is essential. And yes, when the founder has all the knowledge, because as founders, entrepreneurs, we're doing everything, like absolutely everything, right? So the big thing I found through the years is areas where I found, it's really not worth my time to do this. I need to bring someone in so that they can handle that, because this is taking up too much of my time, and my time is better spent on X. So once you find that right person, you bring them in. They do need some training. They got to come in with some skills, but you have to teach them your way of working. How do you want to go about things? So you should already have some methods and systems set up. And you have to take the time to train, because if you expect someone to just go at it based on their past work history and how they do things, they're going to do it their way, and their way might be contradictory to your way, and then you get upset. And whose fault is that at the end of the day? Is it theirs? No, because you didn't show them your way, and maybe their way might be better. If so, then there needs to be a little openness to be able to, have some considerations there. But even so, there is a reason why you have your way, and maybe they can blend some of those things in, but they definitely need to be trained to execute the work and how you're used to working. So there's consistency, and that takes some training.
How do you recommend the core thing that you are good at?
That's one thing you can do, is kind of separate your new business from your existing business.
Talk to me about that transition a bit.
Absolutely. So when we switched gears and got out of the music market, or less focused there, really focused on businesses, we were working with small companies, small businesses. And, they're great. Small businesses are great. I was a small business owner myself. But there's such a big attachment to money working with the owner that there was a lot of challenges when it came to the amount of time that you would dedicate, because sometimes there would be like, oh, yeah, can't you do this for me? Can't you do this for me? And it's just very interesting, right? How much time, free time, you end up giving the small business owners because of how attached they are to their wallet. Again, nice people, it just is what it is. When we started going after bigger companies where there's like marketing directors, VPs of marketing, etc., although they're very responsible for their budget, so far it's still not their money, so they're not quite as attached, and they understand that the value of time that they need to pay for. So we found that we were spending the same amount of time that we would with the small businesses, but we were making way more money because we were being compensated properly for our time that we put in there. Now, so we landed some bigger clients, and we started discovering this, and that's when we said we really need to focus on the middle market to large enterprise companies. So one of the big things that we did is with one of the mentors that I mentioned, helped us rebrand our company and reposition us so that we could speak to and be considered properly for those types of clients. And just, our brand just spoke to that market once we repositioned ourselves, and it worked wonderfully. We started landing more clients that were larger, bigger budgets and so forth. And then another thing we too was getting some strategic alliances with other companies that were kind of in the industry, but they didn't do what we did, similar but different. And they would bring us in or refer us work, or they would subcontract us. And they had a big Rolodex of big companies. And we made a number of strategic alliance partners that brought us in on these big client engagements. And it helped us build up our portfolio of big brands. So when we started doing our own direct selling more and more, we had this great portfolio. Like, hey, we work with these big brands, but you can trust us because we work with these brands. Because that's a big part of it, is trust. Who have you worked with? What have you done?
What is the one single characteristic that an entrepreneur must have?
Discipline. Yeah. I actually have in my book a model called the 5 elements of entrepreneurship, and discipline is one of those elements. And I put a lot of emphasis on discipline. It's something that I always had in me, but martial arts really brought it out in me, and I applied that to my business. And it's just so critically important because I see a lack of discipline out there, and that's why I'm placing so much importance on it right now. There's just such a lack of discipline. There's the entitlement that you mentioned earlier is out there. The expectations of things coming fast, instant gratification. There's all these conveniences that we have in a modern life today that we enjoy. It's created this expectation that everything should happen instantly and come fast. And as you know, the entrepreneurial road isn't like that. It takes time and effort, and it requires discipline, to show up every day. And I break it down into 3 key areas of discipline. One is you have to show up. You have to show up every day, which, well, of course you got to show up, but there's people that don't show up. It's weird. It doesn't compute to me, but there's people out there that just don't bother to show up every day. And it's essentially, you have to show up every day. If you want to be out there competing, you have to be on the field. You have to be in the ring, You have to be a participant, not a spectator in the stands, right? So you got to show up. 2, you need to be productive. So as you're showing up, you actually need to be producing. Whatever you're supposed to be doing, you got to produce. And then 3, you need to be effective. Whatever you're producing has to be of value. It has to be work. So those are 3 aspects of discipline that I'm talking about. And it's critical. If you don't have that, you're going to be in it for a long